Never do less than you can. Never do less than you can. You say, well, that's all I can really do. Is that all you can really do? It's probably you can only do 5 push-ups or 1 push-up. But if you do 1 push-up, you take a rest, you can do 2 push-ups. If you do 2 push-ups, you take another rest, you can do 3 push-ups. But let your rest be a necessity. Don't just take rest. And you can apply this to life as well. So I say, why don't you read? You're like, well, I don't have time to read. I'm like, well, I'm sure you have 15 minutes in a day. You're like, yes, of course I have 15 minutes in a day. Then okay, why don't you read 15 minutes in a day? If you read 15 minutes, take a break, and then you can read another 15 minutes. Before you know, you're reading 30 minutes a day. If you take another break, then you can read another 15 minutes, then you're reading 45 minutes a day. So if you take 4 breaks, you're actually reading for like an hour a day. And before you know, you're reading a book. You're reading a new book a week. So every week, you're actually reading a new book just from starting from 15 minutes a day. So why do less you can? So you say, what does it matter if I do less today? I mean, I will do more tomorrow. I say, no, you can't do more tomorrow, because it becomes an attitude. It becomes a discipline, a neglect. If you do less today, you're more likely to do less tomorrow, because now you're trying to build a habit. That is how neglect starts. That's how neglect starts, because no one goes from 0 to being an undisciplined person. One neglect affects the other. Every action affects the other. That's the thing. Nothing stands alone. One good thing affects another good thing. A bad one affects another bad thing. So every neglect affects another neglect, just as the same. Every discipline affects another discipline. One action affects another. If you don't wake up early today, it's probably you wouldn't make a list of your goals for that day. If you don't make a list for your goal that day, you probably wouldn't complete your goal for that day. If you don't complete your goal for that day, you probably push it forward to tomorrow, and then you're not going to complete the goal for tomorrow. If you don't complete the goal for tomorrow, you're probably not going to complete the goal for the week. And as we say, the strongest man cannot carry yesterday's burden, today's burden, and tomorrow's burden. You're going to break. So every single neglect affects another. Nothing is isolated. Action brings about reaction. Decline never happens in a day. In one day, no one fails through one single action, one single blow. Even in boxing, it takes a while before you get a straight punch knockout. You don't just go into the ring. Most time you get a force knockout. You always get some warning signs. So decline happens over time. One failure over 5 years leads you to your current situation. 5 years of doing nothing equals to where you are today. Failure breeds failure. But if you're fine and happy about where you are today, that's fine. But if you're willing to change, it's easy. Look at what you've done in the past 5 years and try not to do that. Another good example is ask someone, maybe a colleague, someone who's been in the same position for 15 years, ask them what they do after work and trying to stay clear from doing that same thing, because that is your future you are seeing right in your present in the next 5-10 years. Do exactly the opposite of what they are doing. When you do less than you can every day, this is simple. Like everyone knows this. This is called the law of diminishing return. The law of diminishing return says when you invest less, you get less. When you put in less, you get less, that's the same action brings about reaction. And the thing with decline, loss of self, diminishing return, neglect, this does not only affect your work, it affects your life. And this leads into loss of self-respect. The thing about loss of self-respect is it's not a single day action as well. It doesn't happen in one day. You don't lose respect in just one single day. It happens over time, little by little, step by step. That's the thing. You cannot be a first class person in one area and an economy person or a third class person in another area. You can't say, I will let myself down in this area, I will let myself go in this area. After all, I'm doing very well in other areas. I say, no. If you are a first class person, you are a first class person throughout. You cannot be a first class person and a third class person at the same time. Every little thing affects every other thing. Nothing stands alone. Every letdown affects the rest of your performance. That is the same way. Every action breeds reaction. Every discipline breeds a new discipline. When you start eating right, you probably want to go for a run. When you start running, you probably want to eat right. So every discipline affects another discipline. When you start reading one book, you probably want to read 2 books. When you start reading 2 books, you probably want to learn more. Every action brings about reaction. When you start drinking 1 bottle, you probably want to drink 2. Before you know, you're having a beer belly, you're thinking, what does it matter? I might as well keep drinking. Every decline breeds decline. When you're drinking 1 bottle, you're hanging with people in the bar, you probably want to drink 2. When you hang with people who drink 2, you probably want to drink 2. People who drink 3, you probably want to drink 3. But if you hang around people who study, who read 1 book, you probably want to read 2. That is, every company you keep leads you into, that is the thing. The thing is that most of us, we can actually see our future. Our future is currently present around us. If only we will take the time, look, and source where we want to be in the next 5 years. This is all around us. We can see where we are going to be in the next 5 years. Is it that we will be celebrating our success, or we'll sit back and try to blame someone else? Every lack affects the rest. Every new discipline as well affects the rest. The new you, your new life. The thing about self-discipline is it affects your new life. It affects not just your work, but your life itself. How you walk, how you carry yourself, how you talk, how you present yourself. It affects your self-esteem, your self-value, your self-worth. At the same time, every neglect affects your self-doubt. So this is transferred into your life, not just your performance, but your life. If you don't put it into action, when you get an idea, when the idea is high, it's keeping you awake. If you don't write it down, you don't capture it and try and execute it. You say, oh, I'm going to come back to this later. Now I'm going to remember. Your brain is not that, your brain is an amazing thing, but it would not hold everything. And when we don't execute things, they say worry comes from doing less than we can. That's where worry comes from, doing less than we can. When we don't capture, your idea, putting into plan and trying to execute it. You said I'll get to it tomorrow. Before you know, a day will pass, another day, a year, 2 years, and then you're stuck in the same place. That's why action breeds about reaction. You have something in your head, put it into plan, work as hard as you can, trying to execute it. Before you know, you get in the momentum, you get in the rejuvenation. More ideas are flowing. Now you're asking questions. You're mixing with people who will drive you in the same direction. That is what discipline does to you. But doing less than you can increases your worry, your frustration, your anguish. It's when you start something and you don't finish it, you know how you feel. You feel you have accomplished nothing. And the more you carry on this trajectory, your life begins to decline. And when your life becomes to decline, now you now start making excuses. You have a list, that becomes your psychology, your philosophy. Loss of self-esteem, loss of self-respect. And the thing about loss of self-respect starts with yourself. When you start disrespecting yourself, naturally it flows to outsiders, and then outside will start disrespecting you. Because that is the thing. Before any other person could disrespect you, that is, they have seen your self-worth. They've seen your self-worth. So if you want other people to respect you, you have to respect yourself first. You have to discipline yourself. You have to carry yourself in such a way. You have to learn how to communicate in the best manner. Learn how to present your idea in the best manner. And how do you find all this? Where do you get this from? Especially if you've grown up where you set your own record. You don't have the parent who will put you on track. You you choose life. How do you do this? You read books. You learn from people who have succeeded and people who have failed. You learn not to do what people who have failed have done. You learn how to do what successful people have done. You avoid the failures early in life. The thing about life is that they said there's two types of people in life: the 3% and the 97%. Those that do become the 3%, and those that don't, of course, we know they are part of the 97% who blames others. If you can start today, like today, start afresh, work on your language, work on how you speak, your presentation, your communication, read in your area of interest. How else are you going to learn how to become part of the 3%? How else are you going to build equity? Because I'm sure, like, I grew up in an area where there was no role model. Especially everyone, no one had the ambition of being more than getting out of high school. So where else are you going to get the heroes from? You have to read a book. I started by telling people about this book. Once I started reading that book, my life changed. How I spoke changed. Everything about me changed just from one book. And I have been recommending this book to every person I work with. A single little book. It takes you less than an hour to read that book. Less than an hour. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. This is a recommendation. And I'm surprised when I ask some people today, after a few years of speaking to them, they still haven't bothered to read that book. But these same people spend an hour a day, 2 hours a day, scrolling on social media, watching TV. They spend more data on watching skits and comedy than they spend listening on the book that will change their life. And some say, oh, I work long hours. By the time I get home, I'm so tired. When will I have the time to read? When will I have the time to get all these books? And I say to you, simple. That same person who sits in your office, who's been in that same position for 20 years, that's because they've done exactly the same thing you're doing. They said they're tired when they go home. They can't invest in themselves. So all they do, they just do the bare minimum at work. And then they get upset and angry when a new person comes in. 5 years, the person becomes the boss. And what you hear is like, well, I've been in this position like when you were in high school. But what have you done in the position? Your services will determine how far you go. So if you are making excuses that you can't read, well, 20 years down the line, you will be the same place you are today. Nothing will change if you don't change. Yes, whatever you are into, regardless if you're into sport, business, school, banking, accounting, even playing dice or ludo, whatever you're into, you must go out and find how to become the best in that area. You must invest your time in it. How else will you find it? You have to read some book. How else do you become the best in your class? Especially if you grow up in a very poor area where there is no one doing such thing. How do you break out of that shackle? You have to read the thousands of books in every subject matter. People telling you what they've done that have led to failure and how they've succeeded. And you're saying books are too expensive. Books are too expensive, but then you spend your whole data watching you on social media, Big Brother, watching people lives on TV, and then you can't invest yourself, and tomorrow you want to come and complain. Let your lives objective be to act and not to rest. I'm saying again, let your life's objective be about acting, taking action, and not to rest. I've learned this, and then like once I learned this, I only rest comes as a necessity. Only take a rest so you could do more. Just like you're doing push-up, you take a rest after 5 so you could do 10, after 10 so you could do 15. Only rest as a necessity. Those who spend the rest of their life resting, they probably be in the same place, and those are the first person to complain. Another good way to set yourself on the track is ask a colleague of yours who's been in that same job for 15 to 20 years what they do after work, who they mingle with. Ask them about their life, get a good understanding from them, and I tell you, never do the same. Otherwise, you will remain in that same position. They are your future staring you in the face. That is what I'm telling you. There is always live examples around us, and we just choose to ignore. That is your future staring in the face. If you don't change, nothing will change. You say, I'm too busy. Exactly. When you do nothing, you become nothing. That is your future right there. When it's there, plain and simple. You don't have to pay for that life lesson. When you choose not to do anything, you will become the same thing. Of course, they can afford to eat, sleep, but is that how you want to live your life? Do you want to just exist? The thing about life is every subject area in our life, there has been people who triumphant in that area, people who succeeded, and people who failed. We see people who are going to become every day. I tell you, every day you walk around, you see your future in other people. But then the decision is up to you to choose your future. So you can choose. You either become that person who becomes a boss in less than 5 years, or that person who has remained in the same position for 15 to 20 years, only complaining about when a young, person comes up and becomes their boss. Our future is always present in our current situation. We have just chosen to ignore. That's the thing. We've chosen to ignore. Some people, you see people who inspire you, maybe sports stars or whatnot, but you don't go behind and see the effort they put in, the work they do. You see your boss who have climbed the ladder in less than 5 years, you become envious. But you don't sit back and watch what they do, even when they at work. You don't see what they invest, but then you become envious. But then you've chosen not to do the work, but only to complain. Discipline increases your self-worth. The way you talk, the way you walk, the way you carry yourself. We are a product of our result, not time. No, the time you put in will determine your result, but you are practically judged on your result. You are the product of your services. What you give out is what you get. When neglect stacks up, before you know it, it's 5 years. 5 years has passed and you're in the same place. Blaming your parent, blaming your environment, blaming your siblings, everyone, your younger ones. But they have gone through the same process as you, and they've come out on the other side. When you spend your time on the bar and the pub drinking and just, letting life pass through you, they are somewhere putting in the work to become something. And now 20 years has passed, all you do is blame, blame, blame. You have a massive list of blame. Everyone is on that list except you. Except you. The only thing that matters is not on the list, but every other person are on the list for blame. But the only thing, you are not on that list. Choose to discipline yourself. And before you know, you become part of the 3% and not the 97%. I've seen this. Some people sit in the same position for 20 years and then they blame everyone. The younger ones, the older ones, everyone has neglected them. But they never question themselves. What was I doing when other people were striving? What was I doing when other people were working hard? What was I doing when other people were putting in the graft? And what I've come to realize as well is those with more hours, those who spend most of their hours chilling, relaxing, sleeping, doing nothing, You find them down the bar, down the pub every day. They know every joint in town. You start as a kid by buying them drink. Even when you become adult, half kid, you still see them in that same place. You still buying them drink. They've become known as the bros, the uncle, the big bro. They that have more time than any other person are those who actually use less of that time to be productive. If you don't labor, work, read in your youth, I tell you, you will have to live hand from mouth in your old age, or die complaining about other people, because people will be surpassing you just like a car surpasses someone on foot. And I say to you, find out what the poor people are doing. There are a lot of poor people around. We are everywhere. More, like they say, it's empty, or it's quieter up there. Find out what the poor people are doing and don't do that. Don't do that. You're born in poverty doesn't mean you have to die in poverty. Your parents are poor doesn't mean you have to become poor. Your parent couldn't read doesn't mean you could not read. Your parent decided to lie in the house, take benefits, and live in the council estate doesn't mean you have to do the same. Find out what others are doing that's kept them in the same position for 20 years, and don't do that. Blame yourself. Don't blame others. Have a list that is just number one, number two. Number one should say me. That is all you should have on your list. Number one should say me. And number two should say, well, if I'm not very sure about number one, I should still focus on number one. That is all you should have on your list. Just two things. Me. Because everything about your life is based on you, your action. I tell you, once you develop the habit of doing, you build momentum. It's difficult to stop. I know this myself. Once I started, I could hardly stop. The momentum kicks in. You want to learn more. You want to read more. You want to know more. You want to ask questions. You want to mingle with people who would change your life. Once you read one book, you want to read two. You read two, you want to read three. Then when you start reading, then you know there is so much in this world you don't know. Like I always say, I started with that little book, As a Man Thinketh, by James Allen. It took me less than an hour to read it. Now I have more than 100 books in my library. And I'm learning every day different things. How to communicate about economics, finance, spirituality, religion. Everything is already been written about in the book. If you don't start today, the next 5 years, your life will remain the same. In fact, your life will decline. Because I'll tell you why your life will decline. Because what you're earning today, in the next 5 years, once inflation is going at the rate it is, what you can buy for 5 naira, you'll never be able to buy. I mean, I used to be able to purchase like 4 eggs for 100 naira. Now, one single egg is 100 naira. Imagine that. So if you are in the same position, you're earning 20,000 naira a year ago, your 20,000 naira now is probably more like 10 or 5,000 naira. So with inflation going up and you remain the same place, you're not just stagnating, you're declining. What I'm saying to you, act now, start now. Start a discipline. Go. Action. And you would realize that it becomes easy for you to translate what you acquired into equity. You learn how to capture ideas, how to translate this, how to use it, how to, utilize it, how to work with others. There's a saying that goes, unless you change, nothing around you will change. There's about 6 billion people in this world. You can't change every other person. The only change that counts is you. Someone says the only thrill, what riding is the thrill you create by yourself. That's the only wave worth riding, because you're in control. If you read one book, you can read 2 books. And all you need is 15 minutes a day. Before you know it, you are reading 2 books a month. Why do I need to read? Some people actually ask me, why do I need to read? It doesn't concern me. How else are you going to find out about what successful people are doing, especially if there's no successful person in your area who is legitimately successful. That's what I'm talking about. Legitimately successful for a long period of time. Sustained success. Not making $1 million today and being broke tomorrow. Living in a mansion today and living in a hut tomorrow. No, I'm talking about sustained success. Learning the process of success. How else are you going to learn that? Because there's the likelihood that those around you are doing the same thing you're doing, and you obviously want to change. You don't want to end up that way. Have $1 million tomorrow and have nothing for the rest of your life. How else will you learn about economy? How else will you learn about how to communicate? Do you know that 85% of success in life is based upon communication? 85% of your success in life is linked to your communication, how you communicate, how you express yourself. When you can get your message clearly and precise, people, listen to you. You get the attention. People understand you clearly, and then they can follow you clearly. That's what learning communication means. So you have a choice. I said you have a choice, just like we all have a choice. They say that's the only thing that separates us from the animal, the power to choose, do or not to do. So today I'm saying you have a choice. Is either you celebrate your success in 6 years' time, or you look for someone else to blame in 6 years' time. The choice is totally yours. Books are so cheap today. You of course, you spend so much time on your data on social media watching skits and comedy than listening to a good book, a book that will inspire your life, a book that will change your life, a book that will bring about the new you. How sad it is to be laughing your way to death, watching so much comedy. Of course, you want to relieve yourself from stress. That is fine. You could watch comedy, but let that be as a necessity. Only when you want to rest from doing the hard graft. Only when you want to rest from doing the hard graft. You don't spend all your time watching comedy, watching skits, laughing. You're going to be in the same position. When others are rejoicing, you're laughing your way to death. They said the worst person is the person in their 50 broke. And not only broke and still happy. Is that what you came to this life to do? Is that how you want your legacy to be written? Oh, he was happy and broke. He was happy and broke. Well, we're a comedian. Do you want to become the comedy to other people around you? Is that how you want yourself to be seen? It's such a comedy. It is such a comedy. So I'm telling you, get rid of your excuses. Get rid of your blame list. Tear it up. Get a new list. Just a new, clean list. And write on it. Write on your new list. Just one single thing. Number 1, me. That is all you have to do. Commit yourself to a new you. Your ability to communicate, economy, health, spirituality. Take charge of your own possibility. Take charge of your own possibility. Take charge of your own potential. Take charge of the new you and the future of your kids, your family, every other person. Take charge. Don't play the blame game. Those who are doing the blame game, you see them every day in that same position. For the last 5 years, they've been blaming other people. And has any other thing changed? No, because no one will change if you don't change. Life will not change if you don't change. You are in control. That is the only thing you're in control about your choice. And this is so evident when you see two people going through the same position, the same situation, the same circumstance, and one is complaining so much, he's throwing tantrum, and the other person is just calm and quiet. They are going through the same pain, but one person has chosen to react another way, and why the other. So I'm telling you, you make your own choice, regardless of where you're going. Someone will bash your car, some of you jump out, you scream, you kick. Whereas that's not going to solve the problem. The problem could just be negotiated. Talk about, how do you fix my car? So we make our choice. I'm telling you today, when you make your choice, ask yourself, am I making the right choice? Am I going the right direction? Am I around the new people? Am I being motivated? Do I want to be in this position in 5 years' time? If you want to be in that same position In 5 years' time, I would do just like they do on the advert. Skip this. This is really not for you.